First of all, I would like to thank you for your lecture. Very inspired for me and other people on this congress. I have a lot of idea which I would like to implement in my company. I would like ask what happened last time that the topic of polarity stayed so popular.
I think the issue is so popular because the oscillation of the volatility in the business has increased so much since 2008. We have always had a volatility in the business, but not that fast changing and the high oscillation which we can see now in the markets. And there are no signs that this will change. This will stay for the next futures, and therefore it is high ranked on the agenda of the management.
What is the practical consequence for the business, these changes?
The practical consequence is that we must seek for more flexibility, how we arrange our business, and how we can buffer the company against shocks from the market, shocks from internal volatilities, so that what we already said, the reaction time is very important. How fast can I react? Early warning signals are very important. When get I knowledge that change is coming up, the complexity is very important. Do I have plans which are going through those complexities, not to lose time for reaction? Reaction time is very important to this. And then the second is execution. Not to wait until a decision is made, so making the decision as soon as possible and as appropriate as the situation is requiring.
Okay. One of my conclusions for this lecture is the function of the controller and Department of Controlling should be dramatically changed. And what is the main direction of these changes for the controller function in the company?
It's the major change is that the controller has to be the front runner of this to cope and with volatility. He should not wait in his position until the situation is coming up. He should seek, together with other departments in the company, that he can see it as early as enough. Maybe with cooperating with the strategy department, say there's something coming up, how do you see it? Working together with the sales department, can you see any signs of changing in the markets? And he must moderating the process, get all the company leaders and managers, how should I say in English, that they knew what's coming up and that they're making up their mind and that there's an agility in the company to react to it. So he's moderating the process and he's discussing and convincing. So it's a weak functions he have to carry out. It's not the heart of the reporting of the data. This is a discussion process with the management. And we in ICV, we say the controller should be the business partner of the management on an eye-to-eye level. And the business partner must talk with the management the most important issues. And not bringing the report, throwing it over the wall and say, that's my duty.
It's not my problem.
It's not my problem. So he has to deal with the problem because he has to support the manager, as we've seen it.
Yes, it's very big challenge for the controller because the competence which is enough for reporting, inform about some problem is totally different than meet the expectation, this expectation. And what will be the most important, the competence which should be developed in controller that could be chance for meet this expectation of the company.
I think he must know the business model very well. And he must know the environment in which his business model is working well. And not only from the data side, but really deep inside, business insight, he must have like all the other manager. Otherwise, he cannot discuss the issues with the management. It must be on a higher level discussion than on the databases. Must be more strategically. And therefore, he has to go to the department of strategy. He has to go to the department of sales, to marketing, to production side, that he is very good informed how that works there and so that he can make up his mind what an external shock could put to the company. So business knowledge is the key for the controller. Even for the departmental controller, he must know, for instance, if he is in the sales and marketing division controller, then he must know the market efforts, and he must know
every detail.
Not to every detail, but to the function. Yes, in general, what are the driving forces there? What is coming up in the market? What are the most relevant issues on the side of our competitors? How is pricing going on, and so on and so on. And he must look for tools how to cope with special situations, and he must anticipate a lot of things on the customer side. And he must use the market. How do our customers react to fuel price increases at Lufthansa, for instance? So, do they accept it? Should we include it into the price or not include it into the price? That comes to different reactions of the customer. So, and he must be in the business and not only watching to the business or on the business, overview the business. He must be in the business, not carrying out the duties, but knowing what are the driving forces, what is the most important issues we have to see, and then he can make up his mind when an external shock or an internal shock is coming up, how to react to this, and can go to the management and say, in this case, we should do this and this, to make recommendations or at least discussions with the management. And that as early as possible, because reaction time is the most important.
Yes.
If you not know how the business functions, you need time to evaluate it.
Of course.
Of course. And this is a pity in a crisis situation.
Okay, but I have one more conclusion for your lecture. The controller function must change, of course. You talk about a little, but also the company must change your thinking with the variability staying more stronger, and how the controller, what will be the function from the controller to change thinking the managers and whole company? It could be support or...
Yes, I think if the manager feels that the controller knows the business, and then he will spend his time with the controller. If you look for a KPI for successful controllers, I said to my guys, which we have been the controller for our subsidiaries, look the hours you discuss with the management. Yes, if you have only 1 hour in a month, you are not in the business. You are not the partner of the management to discuss the most important items. If you are looking that your department, controlling department, will deal with the most important items to the manager, you must be the discussion partner, the preferred discussion partner of the manager.
It's a good base for next steps.
And then you can moderate the process. But it's not only the upper management. It's the whole management layer which you have with which you have to discuss. Because you must have the knowledge, a deeper knowledge of the departmental manager also. So you are moderating a process and giving all the information to and for management, to department management, and you are moderating this process, and then you can influence the decision. It's all about to influence a decision, to come to better decisions by putting together the puzzle and say, that's a puzzle, and we can afford it in this way and in this manner.
Okay. You said that very important is reduce time from we see some problems to make different decisions. And could you give the controller some advice how we can start this process to reduction this time from problem to change?
Yes, I think he can do some preparatory work for it. Say, let us assume what kind of crisis we have experienced the last 10 years. As I mentioned, strike should be in Poland not a problem, but Lufthansa it was a problem, or last years. No? External events. Competition, when a low-cost carrier come into a market, we had a drop of 25% in our yields. How to cope with it? And then making up the mind, what is the forces and what are the instruments I can use internally, and how quick can I use those instruments with the unions, or if I can independently react to those items, just saying to the management, now we have to react in this and this manner. We have to reduce capacity. We have to terminate the contracts in accordance with the negotiations we have made with our suppliers and so on. He must prepare plans for certain instances and for certain issues. And then to prepare plans means that he, in a degree and in different levels of the crisis, he can call up. We do the first things, reduce workforce, then we cut our contracts, then we do reduce our capacities, so that we must not have time to think about it, what to do, but do this immediately.
It should be ready
if the crisis is totally different, so he will need some time to
history could be good, the information for the future. What happened in the history?
I'll give you one example of what we found out. It was very surprised. It's more costly for Lufthansa to cope with a strike, flying half-empty aircraft, but only half-empty aircraft. When the volcano crisis came up, all the aircraft were on ground, and that was much cheaper. So the reaction to this was that now, if a strike would come up, we would ground the whole fleet for a certain time, just not to fly with half-empty aircraft because it's too costly. That was one of the reactions. The second one was we could prepare to bring water on board on separate ways because no aircraft can fly without water. So you must ask the people, how can we react to certain circumstances? At 9/11, we reduced capacity very quick, and we were able to introduce the capacity when the crisis was over very quick. So that was a preparatory plan which was developed in the time before, out of the experience that it took 3 months' time 10 years ago to do so. And so you must look at the processes. How can you, on the operating processes, how can you influence in certain crises, how to react to it? And that's what we have done, Lufthansa. Maybe this is paperwork at the moment, as Herwig Friedak said in our discussion after the presentation. Make up your mind, when there's a decrease in demand by 20%, what can you do, how can you react, what can you prepare, and how can you change the manner you of the business, you operate your business, to cut the times of reaction. And of course, if you do know the business, you know what to do, and then you are more quicker. And that could be the task of the controller and the responsibility of the controller to develop in advance of a possible crisis, possible volatility, or any other development, to say and to see what kind of instruments, what kind of action can we now take most quickly to overcome the situation very quick.
Yes, but sometimes managers are focused for this year, this action, this decision, and sometimes it's not so easy to try to convince. We not stop thinking about next December when we have the result of our budget. We must think longer, and we must think about what happened with our assume in the budget will be wrong, for instance.
Therefore, we need a variety of options and perspectives. And we're showing, if you react in this manner, this will come out. We can do in a different manner, this would come out. We can do it like this would come out. And you must think in the categories, each action will have consequences. And what management would like not to have is that we will not have a growth plan for the next future. That we cannot cut all just to overcome the situation. We must, even with respect to the time horizon, we must react in the short run, we must in the medium term react, and in the long term. As I mentioned, to make contracts with a supplier, can be a good example that we say, okay, in the short run we can cut, but we reload the contract afterwards, or you get more business from us afterwards. Then he is willing to cooperate. So, and there are a lot of examples how you can cope with the future. But you must have more than one plan. That is what a variety of options you describe. And the controller must or should be the one, if he's a business partner, to describe what are viable options for the company in this situation. Not only one. That's the most important.
But from my point of view, my experience is the problem is the manager sometimes ignore some situation, potential, if the company haven't in the history some crisis. If we follow one crisis, the thinking is changes. But if the company everything run okay, but okay, we must focus for this contract, this quarter, this year, and difficult to convince. We must stop for a moment and must thinking about the different option. That's for me the very big challenge for the controller to convince. We must thinking.
Yes, but you must.
Scenario.
They must put pressure on the management. You must convince management. If you cannot convince the management, there will nothing happen. So yes, it's the task of the controller to convince the manager. Then you need arguments, and you must be able to show what's coming out, what are the risks and the chances of opportunities you have. And if you can show the manager, then you have the basis for discussion. And then you come into a process of thinking of both and together. Only showing that there's a crisis and no having a solution or a variety of options to bring into the table, then you are not a discussion partner for the management. So it's a matter of conviction and convincing the manager to react to the upcoming crisis. As I explained, the cat is jumping to the future of the mouse, not to the mouse.
What do you think? The business changes. Controlling function, controller function must also changes according to the business. And how will we look the controlling in 2025? What will be the main direction for controlling?
I think if the controller would like to be the business partner, he must learn the management techniques more and more, the thinking of a manager. And he must learn much more what are strategic solutions. What is a strategic answer we can develop out of it. He must think more strategically and looking more into the future of the company. And my keyword for this is prediction. So to predict a little bit possible outcomes of the future. And then, on the other hand, he must be able going down to the data. So this is what...
Something like transmission belts between these
because
two eras.
At the end, you need data to show the outcome of a crisis. So, and the second is, in this way, the controlling departments must change their culture. And the head of controlling should be the head of the change process in controlling.
Impact the business.
In practice, yes. And yes, into the direction, you are not driving a car by looking into the mirror to look back in the street. You are driving the car mostly to look forward. So, and what a lot of controllers today do, they are looking into the mirror, what has happened at the traffic behind me
Exactly.
and not looking to what is happening in front of me. And I think this is more management techniques, more insight into the business environment, more insight into the relations within the business, and to cultural change, to adaptability and to agility and to predictability. That's I think will come up the next 10 years to controlling.
It's a very big challenge for every controller, which will be very interesting future
To follow and to look at
controllers.
it.
Exactly. Thank you very much for
Okay, I have to thank you.
your inspiring lecture and very inspiring talk.
Thank you.